Hungarian Folk Tales. The Little Swineherd. Once upon a time, over oceans deep and mountains high, there lived a poor woman who had a son, and his job was to look after the pigs. No matter what his mother tried to get him to do, it was always the same. There was nothing he could do right or proper, not even if you turned him into an angel. He was good for nothing at all. So anyway, this good-for-nothing of a little swineherd heard that the king would give his daughter's hand to anyone who could hide away so well that she couldn't find him. Now then, swineherd, my lad, he said to himself, roll your sleeves up, for there's a lot to win if you go about it the right way. So he gathered everything up, baked himself a satchel of scones, put on his heavy cape, and off he went. He walked and he walked through bushes and trees, over hill and dale, and still he couldn't find the castle of the king. For a long week he walked, ate the last of his scones, and still he didn't see a thing. And then he became so thirsty that his tongue hung out like a slipper out of a dog's mouth. Then as he went along, he came upon a well, and on it perched two white doves. Well then, the pair of you, I'll have to eat you both because I'm very hungry indeed. Oh, don't eat us, little swineherd. Draw us some water, we're so thirsty, and one good deed deserves another. And they begged him and begged him not to make a meal of them. So he went and drew up a bucket of water for them, and he himself drank his fill of the cold, sweet water. And so he continued on. But now he was so hungry that his stomach rattled like a dog on a chain. Then he came across a lame fox. Well then, lame fox, I'll have to eat you, I'm so hungry. The lame fox beseeched him not to make a meal of him. One good deed deserves another, little swineherd. I'll be able to help you. The swineherd's eyes were popping out of his head with hunger, but he decided not to eat the lame fox. He staggered on, and staggered to the right, and staggered to the left, and thought he'd never come to his journey's end. Then, far off, he saw a great lake. Down he went to its shore and saw a little fish struggling at the water's edge. Quick as a flash, he tickled it out of the water. Oh, please don't eat me, little swineherd. I'll repay you for your good deed. The little swineherd looked at the fish, and beautiful it was too, its scales all shiny and gold. He felt sorry for the fish and put it back into the water. On he went and eventually came upon another well, and on it perched two other white doves. Do you think I'm a madman? As sure as the sky above me, I'm going to make a meal of you both. So he tried to catch hold of the doves, but they begged and beseeched him not to do them harm. And the end of it was that he did them no injury, but drew them water, drank a great bellyful himself, and went on his way. Not long after that, he found himself at the castle, and at the gate stood the king. So what brings you to this far-off land? Said the king. So the little swineherd told his tale and why he had come, that he had heard that the king would give his daughter's hand to someone who could hide away so well that she couldn't find him. And that's what he wanted to try. Fair enough, my lad, said the king, but have you seen the 99 heads up there? Yours will be the 100th if you can't hide yourself well. The little swineherd looked around and turned to the king and bravely said, I'll do the best I can, your highness. On the following morning, the king came to him and told him to hide himself away before his daughter arose. The little swineherd made himself ready, and what did he see but the two white doves? Come on, we'll take you away. And the two white doves carried him off to hide him behind the sun. The princess prepared herself for the day. She went down to the garden, plucked the finest of the roses and twirled around. Out you come, little swineherd. There you are, behind the sun. And the little swineherd was furious and frightened. What could he do? Out he came from the far side of the sun. The next day dawned bright and clear. The little swineherd rose, looked out of the window, and there he saw the lame fox rearing up, waiting to take him away to the end of the world. The princess went down to the garden, plucked the finest of the roses, and twirled around. Out you come, little swineherd, come back from the end of the world. And the little swineherd was forced to reappear. On the third day he went off to meet the little fish at the lake, and the fish took him deep, deep down into the water. Not a living soul comes here. They'll never find me here. But the princess went down to the garden, plucked the finest of the roses, twirled around once, and called the little swineherd from out of the bottom of the lake. That's surely the end of me. My head will be on the 100th stake, said the little swineherd. He laid himself down to go to sleep, but all he did was toss and turn, writhe and wriggle. On the following day at dawn, he saw 2 white doves at the window. One of them flew off instantly, but the other one stayed. Come as quick as you can. You'll be turned into a fine rose, and so will I. And that's what happened. By mid-morning, all the buds had blossomed in the garden. Down came the princess. She looked for the finest of the roses and found 2 of the same beauty. She plucked both of them and fastened them to her dress. Then she twirled around once, but she didn't see the little swineherd. She twirled around twice, and still she didn't see him. Father, I can't see the little swineherd. He's hidden himself away so that I can't catch him. He can't have. Just twirl around once more. So she twirled around once more for the 3rd time, but she could have twirled around till day was done, and still she wouldn't have caught the little swineherd. Then one of the roses on her dress turned into a dove, and the other into the little swineherd. My heart's delight, my only love, I will be yours and you will be mine. Nothing in this world will part us ever. And they embraced and kissed and clung together like a bunch of flowers. Soon there was a wedding feast, and everyone was invited. And the swineherd king and his beautiful queen lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Golden Calf. Once upon a time, there lived a king and a queen, and they had a handsome, strong son and a beautiful daughter. One day the king called his children. Dear son, it's time for you to go out, find a maiden, and get married. I'm getting old, and you should take over the burdens and problems of the land from me, and you, my daughter, should choose someone whom you would be willing to marry. Father, I do not need anyone. There is not a maiden in this land who was born for me, the daughter continued. I don't want to get married, father dear. There is no prince in this land for me. The king became very angry. Get out of here, both of you. I don't want to see you if you are so picky and choosy. So the prince and the princess set out to see the world. As they were walking across the hills, they walked and walked until they became very tired. They rested underneath a tree, and they soon fell fast asleep. When the girl awoke, she called her brother. I had a dream, brother. Do you know what I saw? What did you see? Tell me. In my dream, I saw that this tree has magical powers. If you pick a leaf and touch it to the forehead of a sick man, that man will be healed right there and then. And not far from here flows a stream, and even if that man is half dead, he will be cured if he drinks from the water. Let's give it a try. They collected a bunch of leaves and filled their sacks with them. The girl filled her canteen with water, and they continued on their journey. They were walking and walking until they reached another land where everyone was dressed in black. "Good woman, what's the reason for mourning in this land?" "My dear son, the prince is so ill that no one can cure him." Our prince said to his sister, "Let's go and cure him." So they both dressed as doctors and went to see the king. The king was only too pleased to let them in. The princess walked up to the prince and placed some leaves on his forehead. And at that very moment, the prince looked up, their eyes met, and they smiled at each other. The brother of the princess stepped up to the bed and gave the prince a few sips of the healing water. The sick prince sat up in an instant, and he was 100 times healthier than ever before. "I'm not going to let you go, whoever you are. You will be my wife." The brother told his sister, "Well, sister, now you've found your true love. It's time for me to walk on until I find mine." And with that, he continued on his journey. And at one point along the way, he heard the sound of drums. The drummers were announcing that the princess would marry the man who found what mark she had under her arm. There were dozens and dozens of candidates who came to try their luck, but none of them had any success. As he was walking around in the town, thinking hard about the riddle, a blacksmith looked out of his window and called to the young man. "Where are you going and why? I heard the drums and the announcement, and I am supposed to guess what mark the princess has under her arm." "Well, that's easy. I have a lot of gold. I could use that to make a golden calf. Somebody could curl up inside that calf, and we can take the calf to market. The princess will see the golden calf and will buy it, and the person inside the calf will find out what mark she has under her arm." The prince said, "What if that person were me?" "Well, all right, we can agree on that." In the morning, the prince climbed inside the golden calf and they transported it right to the middle of the marketplace. It wasn't long before the king and the princess came walking by. Father dear, please buy this one for me. It would look so beautiful in the palace." And she kept on pleading until her father bought the golden calf for his daughter. He told his men to place the golden calf into his daughter's room. Evening came, and the princess undressed and went to bed. When the prince was convinced that she was asleep, he opened the little door, climbed out, slowly walked to her bed, and peeked under her left arm. And suddenly he saw what was there: the sun, the moon, and the stars. He laughed out loud, but he woke the princess up. When she saw the stranger in her room, she let out a scream. But the prince was not afraid, and he spoke to the princess. "Stop screaming, lest they find out that I'm here with you." The two of them started talking. They agreed that she would have the calf taken back to the blacksmith. And so it happened. In the morning, her father came in. "Oh, father dear, I accidentally broke off one of its ears. Let's have it taken back to the blacksmith so he can place it back." They took back the golden calf, the blacksmith opened the side door, and the prince climbed out. That afternoon, the prince went to see the king. "Your Majesty, please give me 3 days to think, and I'll find out the truth." And he pretended to think long and hard. Finally, the 3rd day came, and the princess could hardly wait. The king spoke. "So, did you find out?" "Well, Your Majesty, she's wearing the sun, the moon, and the stars under her arm." "Well, by golly, you're right. You've solved the riddle. You can have my daughter and my kingdom." And they had a fabulous wedding with plenty of food and drink for everyone. Of course, they invited the prince's sister and her husband, the other prince, and they did not forget about their parents either. Everyone was happy. The wedding and the party lasted for a whole week, and and they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Poor Man and the Dog. Once upon a time, there was a poor woman who lived together with her poor husband. They didn't have a thing in the world that they could call their own, except for a brood of children and a filthy little pig. Once they found themselves so utterly penniless that it well nigh drove them out of their wits. The woman said to the man, "Listen, my husband, let's slaughter the pig. You take the pig fat to the town and sell it, and I'll cook a fine meal for the children." So they slaughtered the pig, but its fat was as thick as my little finger. So the man wrapped the pig fat into a little bundle, tied it to the end of a stick with a piece of twine, and set out to the town to sell it. He walked over hill and dale until suddenly a dog sprang out of a ditch and started snapping at his heels. "Woof, woof, 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 woof. Hey, you mongrel, leave me be. Don't hold me up. I'm going to the city to sell this pig fat. I want to make a little money." Woof, 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 woof. "What's that? What's that? You say you want to buy the pig fat? Well, I'll sell it to you, but will you pay for it?" Woof, 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 woof. "You'll pay for it in 3 weeks from now? That's a long time, but I myself am poor. I know what it is to be without money." "Fine, it's yours, but 3 weeks from now, I'm coming back for the money. And if you don't pay, I'll beat you until you beg me for mercy." So the man took the bundle of pig fat from the stick. The dog grabbed it in his teeth, trotted back to the ditch, and started to chomp and chew at it with great delight. When the poor man arrived home, his wife was waiting for him at the gate. "Dear husband, did you bring home any money?" "Money? No, I have not brought home any money." "Blessed Lord, what have you done with the pig fat?" "The pig fat? I sold it." "Then tell me, to whom did you sell it? Who was the shameless wretch who didn't pay?" "I gave it to a dog." "Blessed Lord, how can you have been such a fool as to give the pig fat to a dog?" "He told me he would pay for it in 3 weeks from now." "Dear husband, tell me, how did you speak with the dog?" "Quite easily. I asked questions. He woofed." "Dear husband, you are a fool." And from then on, the woman teased and taunted her husband, calling him a fool and a half-wit. But the man really was a little thick in the head, and he paid her no mind. The 3 weeks soon passed, and the man took his stick in his hand and set off to get the money he was owed. He went over hill and dale, and when he reached the spot where he had first seen the dog, the little mongrel leapt out of the ditch. It wagged its tail and barked at the man. "Woof, woof! Woof, woof, woof! Woof, woof! So, little dog, here we are. I have come for the money. Woof, 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 woof. Enough of your woof woofing, give me the money." But the dog only woofed some more. Woof, 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 woof. The man became angry, and he hit the dog with his stick so hard that the little dog yelped in pain, ran back into the ditch and started to dig. And it dug, and it dug, and it dug, and lo and behold, a little barrel of money rolled out of the dirt. The man was overcome with joy. "Goodness me! Forgive me if you can, little dog, for having struck you with my stick. I never imagined you were so wealthy. I'll take half the money to pay for the fat and half as interest." So then he took the little barrel under his arm and set off, proudly swaggering home. Once inside, he dumped the countless coins on the table. The children rushed in and started spinning and rolling the little coins. The man and the woman began to discuss all the things they would buy. They were overjoyed. But alas, the man in his joy could not keep his silence. He walked the length and breadth of the village and cried out at every gate, "We're rich! We're rich! At last we're rich!" His wife snapped at him, "Foolish man, be quiet. Our relatives will hear that we have come into money. They will rush to our doorstep and beg us to give them some." But she cautioned him in vain, and the man continued to boast and brag. One day the woman said to her husband, "Dear husband, it's cold and rainy. Go stand by the stove under the chimney where you can warm yourself." The chimney in the poor man's house opened up to the sky, and when it rained, the water dripped down onto the coals. The woman went up to the attic with a bucket of water. There was still a bit of sausage left over from the pig. She threw it into the water and poured the whole bucket, sausage and all, down the chimney, onto her husband's head. When he felt the little pieces of meat falling on his head, the man ran out of the house. "Dear wife, did you see? It's raining sausage." "I see, dear husband, I see. And do you know why it's raining sausage?" "It's raining sausage so that we may remember the time we suddenly found ourselves rich. If someone asks you when we came into a hoard of gold coins, you tell them it was the day that sausage rained down from the skies. Do you understand?" "I do." Barely 3 days later, the judge arrived with 2 policemen. "Show us the gold coins. We all know you recently came into a hoard of gold coins." "Your Honour, gold coins? When did we ever have gold coins?" Her foolish husband answered, "Dear woman, have you forgotten? It was the day sausage rained down from the skies." "Ah, yes, Your Honour, my husband is not quite right in the head. For never has sausage rained down from the skies, and never did he or I come into a hoard of gold coins." The judge and the policeman laughed heartedly, for the world is indeed full of fools. The poor man and his wife enjoyed their new riches, and they all lived happily ever after.